Richard Posner, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Dick, you're one of the great pioneers in applying economic reasoning to law. Do you think there are any goods or services that money should not be able to buy?
Yeah, you don't want to allow people to purchase someone to be a slave, right? But in olden days, people thought you shouldn't allow purchase of sexual services. I wouldn't say that was true.
You think that's okay?
Yeah,
That shouldn't be against the law.
I don't think so. No.
Let me offer you a different example. Life insurance. Most people buy life insurance to protect their families in the event of an early death. But companies also buy life insurance on their employees, not just CEOs who may be expensive to replace. Walmart, some years ago, was taking out life insurance policies on its janitors and maintenance workers, collecting the payments when those people died. Is there anything wrong with companies doing that?
No, but there's an important qualification. You cannot take out life insurance on a person without the person's consent.
Why not?
Oh, that's very important.
Why is
That goes back hundreds of years. Because if you do that, you have an interest in the person's death, right?
That's right.
Yeah. There are murders that are committed by, that's what gave rise to the rule. It's hundreds of years old. But yeah, you take out a life insurance policy on another person, then you kill the person, and you get the proceeds.
But suppose the laws against murder are enforced.
The laws against nothing are 100% effective.
So Walmart should not be able to take out a life insurance policy.
No, it has to get the permission of the person whose life is being insured. There's nothing wrong with that. So a company will go to a high executive and say, look, we want to take out a life insurance policy, an insurance policy on your life, because if you die, it's going to be costly to us, right?
But even we're talking here about the maintenance worker, the janitor, who won't be costly to replace. Should Walmart be able to take out a life insurance policy on his life? If
the person consents, why would the person care, right? If someone comes to you and says, look, if you die, suppose you have your own life insurance. If you die, your beneficiary gets the proceeds. If someone else takes out a policy on your life and you die, then when you die, in addition to the proceeds of your policy going to your beneficiaries, the proceeds of this separate policy goes to the company. You're not hurt.
And now there's apparently a big market, a secondary market in life insurance policies, where speculators, investors...
Oh, yeah. No, I'm actually working on a case on this. You buy a life insurance policy, and you are permitted to sell it to an investor.
Right.
And that investor will make some kind of calculation as to how long the person is likely to live.
Now that investor has an interest.
That's right.
In your dying sooner.
Yes. I can see criticisms of that. It's become a big thing.
It has.
Until I had got this case, I hadn't realized that there were such transactions. But yeah, it is a big thing, yeah.
And now, these investments in other people's life insurance policies are being bundled and securitized.
Yes, right.
To create death bonds.
Well, I would say less that it's sinister as that it is distasteful because, of course, as an investor, you will want to try to find out as much as possible about the health of the person, yeah.
What I'm trying to push you on with all of these cases, Dick, is, you just now said, well, it's distasteful. I've used the language of corrupting, morally objectionable. Most of your objections to these novel uses of markets tend to be on efficiency grounds. But do you think in some of the cases we've been discussing, whether babies or votes or immigrants or refugees or life insurance policies or private prisons, there are certain intrinsic goods, moral goods or civic goods, that are corrupted or degraded if they're bought and sold in the market?
Not really. So now you see an opportunity to sell your beneficial interest to an investor who maybe wants to package it with similar beneficial interests and have a security. This is probably efficient in the sense that the investor who buys the policy from you values it more than you do. So, and that we would think a typical voluntary value maximizing contractual arrangement. And you say, well, it's a little creepy, right? Since the investor and indeed the beneficiary would be very interested in the health, the life prospects, and so on of the insured. So yeah, it's a little creepy. Now, is society corrupted by that kind of thing? I don't think so. Because after all, think of the people who engage in this business, right? They bring to it the willingness to engage in, and of course most Americans are like that, right? They don't worry about the morality of the activity they're in.
You said as Americans, we don't care very much about the morality of the activities we're engaged in.
Unless they do, real harm.
And that's why we love markets. So.
Right.
Don't you think we should be concerned with the morality of the activities we're engaged in?
I don't think it fits the American psyche. I think Americans are too individual, and there's too much emphasis, I mean too much in a bad sense, too much for your approach. There's too much emphasis getting ahead, the fact that there's some trickiness involved, exploiting inherent psychological weaknesses of people. I think that's regarded as just how things are done. I mean, how could one imagine an advertising industry that was full of exaggerations and playing on people's naivete? No, you can't imagine that. And people get pleasure from it. You can't impose on the United States the kind of society that the communists dreamed of, right?
The communists, the alternative is communism? To concern ourselves with the moral limits of markets, you think that amounts to communism?
No, I was saying that the communists, not the way, of course, Soviet Union, the other communist countries actually administered, but the ideal, from each according to his ability, right, to each according to his need. In other words, you divorce the work, the striving, the achievements from the receipts. No way you can impose that on the United States. It's like the guns, right? How many guns? I think there are like 300 million guns in the United States, something like that. Ridiculous, right? It's ridiculous. But that's part of an individualist tradition in America. And there's no way Americans can be converted to that. It's offset by a lot of things. So Americans are much less xenophobic than the foreigners. They're more willing to accept people very different from themselves and, live and let live. So on the one hand, sort of neglect of other people, every man for himself, but it does provide freedom of a kind that people in other cultures often don't have.
My impression, based on this conversation, is that you are a less orthodox defender of markets than you used to be.
That's true.
But that your newfound skepticism about markets still differs from mine in the following respect. I think we have drifted from having a market economy to becoming a market society. And by a market society, I mean a way of life in which market values and market thinking begin to dominate every aspect of life, not just the buying and selling of material goods, but family life, health, education, civic life, law, journalism, and so on. And I think that's what's damaging. And I think people sense that markets can be corrosive if they reach into spheres of life where they don't belong. And so that's the debate that I think we should encourage.
In terms of getting the public to recognize these problems and support change, I just think it's impossible.
Well, we've covered a vast terrain. Richard Posner, thank you so much.
My pleasure, Michael.